The Balance, journalism without agenda.
Hi there everyone, and welcome to the first video in a while here on The Balance, and I do want to apologise for that there has been such a delay in anything new for a while now, but it's been a very busy new year for me on a personal level. You may have read about it on my website, you may have read about it in the media as well. Not going to talk about any of that today. I wanted to do this vidcast after some pretty shocking news that came down earlier today. That Newshub, which is the news service, television and online news service of TV3 here in New Zealand, which is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, it's shutting down. It's being closed completely. Announcement made at 11 a.m. today, the 28th of February, and we know the media industry's got problems, but to take a decision this drastic, to say not only are we downsizing, but we are shutting down completely, huge ramifications from that, and let's get into it. Quick bit of history to start with, just to set the scene. TV3 was launched in 1989 in New Zealand, the first private TV channel in the country. Its news service was then called 3 National News. That became 3 News some years later, and then was converted to the title of Newshub. The idea of it being a hub which brought together TV and radio and online all into one branded news service. It's actually, I think, a good idea, and I'll talk more about that later. What happened, though, is the TV business, it's always struggled. TV3's always struggled. I mean, it was in receivership only, if I'm not mistaken, 6 months after launch. But it's battled on, and eventually this TV part of the business, the MediaWorks business, as it was known then, which was TV, radio, and outdoor advertising, the TV part was bought by Discovery, which is now Warner Brothers Discovery. And that meant some changes. It meant the radio business was no longer part of Newshub. It just became TV and online. And things have just gotten progressively more difficult in the media sector with advertising dollars going down. So, as I said in my introduction, downsizing in and of itself is not a surprise at all. Everyone's having to do it. But Warner Brothers Discovery has said, no, we're going to shut the whole thing down. And that means, and I think this is really, in many ways, the most critical point as far as TV journalism goes, there will now only be one TV news service in New Zealand in 2024. It's reversing the past 34 years of actually having competition at 6 o'clock in the morning on the breakfast shows, previously at lunchtime, late shows. Direct competition is now gone. And just the choice for people to have an option at 6 o'clock. And remember, New Zealand, 6 p.m. news is still important. It is still viewed as appointment to view sort of viewing, even with the move to digital. So now, people here will only have one choice. And I find that, quite remarkable. We hear about the death of television, basically, the slow death of TV. This is very sudden and very drastic. So when I heard this news after the initial shock, I sort of thought, well, what are we dealing with here? Let's have some balance. Let's look at both sides of the argument here. As I just said, we know there is a shift away from broadcast news, from broadcast television. The TV companies know that. They talk about a digital-first future themselves. So something like this happening, maybe not quite this sort of savage, but something like this happening is perhaps in and of itself not a great surprise. It's a shock, but it's a surprise. But as I said here as well, certainly here in New Zealand, TV news, the 6 p.m. news still has a sort of aura about it. Fewer people are sitting down to watch it, but hundreds of thousands still do. And when there's a big event, people still turn to television. The general election here last year, TVNZ's coverage drew in 1.4 million viewers over the age of 5. That shows you, certainly for big event news, that TV still and broadcast still has its place. So then I thought, well, did this decision have to be that savage then? If 6 p.m. is still viewed as important, then why not focus solely on that? Yeah, you've got to make some big cuts because making television and making TV news is an expensive business. It is personnel heavy. It requires a lot of people and a lot of money. So here's an idea: get rid of everything else. Get rid of the morning show or the late news, the weekly politics shows, things like that, and focus on 6 o'clock so you've got that presence still. It's actually kind of a backwards thinking idea. It seems a bit retro to say, oh, let's focus everything on one news bulletin a day at 6 o'clock. But it would have kept the brand alive. It would have meant they still had a news presence. And when big news happens, you can always upscale. You go into breaking news mode, you can make it happen. I mean, it wouldn't be as easy, to be fair, if you had a much smaller operation, but at least the footprint would still be there. Newshub would still have a brand. There would still be people associated with it. It would still exist. Or you do, I think, perhaps the more logical thing, and you say, okay, making TV news is too expensive. Do away with that. Let's move everything online. We're going digital first. We keep newshub.co.nz, which still obviously requires a lot of people, but it's not as expensive to run, I think. I'm not an expert on these things, but I think it's, broadly speaking, is going to be cheaper. Again, it means you still have your footprint, your brand, you have your digital reach, and making content for online is easier, faster, and cheaper than making television content. And it's on demand, which is where we're all headed. It's where we all are anyway. So it seems too drastic to kill the whole thing off. And maybe that speaks to the level of financial problems that there are there, the bleak advertising outlook. Say, I don't know about running businesses and budgets and things like that, but and Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery said this themselves. This is not a decision that they arrived at easily, and I can believe that. The other great shame with this decision, and it's something which had already been broken down to a degree, with the sale of TV3 and the separation of the TV business from the radio business and the outdoor advertising business, is the whole concept that was Newshub. I got my start at TV3 many, many years ago, about 25 years ago, in the days when it was just a TV news service. Website was just starting. But it was a strong brand, 3 News. People knew it. The logo, the look, the people. It was the flagship of the station. Then they made this decision. Okay, we're going to get rid of the 3 News brand. We're going to retire that, and we've got this idea of Newshub. We're going to utilize the fact that we have an online business, a TV business, and a radio business, and bring them together under this one banner. But it kind of went further than that, I felt. You had a morning show, which was a TV morning show, which was simulcast on radio. But it wasn't just playing that on radio. Well, it was, but they designed a product which could be equally useful and listenable and watchable on TV as much as it was on radio. And then on top of that, you've got your online outlet as well. I think it was actually a really good idea. And this is the final dismantling of that. The radio had already gone. The website was obviously still there, companion to the TV, or did the TV become a companion to the online, But it's a shame because it was a good idea. It brought resources together, but it was of a different time. It was a time when the money wasn't so tight. And this is the reality for every major media organization out there, is that the advertising dollars just aren't there. And it's a reminder, as much as we want to think about journalism as being as independent as possible, it relies on commercial realities in the end, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm sure there's many, many more hot takes out there from people who are perhaps more, connected and have got the inside word and such. But this is, an outsider's perspective from someone who was once on the inside. Please, if you've got any thoughts on this or anything else you want to discuss, leave a comment below. Subscribe and like as well. And I'm going to do my best to be back here more often with more videos, more content, and more balance. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Read, watch, and listen online at the Balance website.